Welcome to Tea Time with Coach. I'm Andrea M. Stuckey, the divorce liver, and your favorite divorce coach, founder of the amazing community, Divorce Women Unite. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday. We are here again, and let's get situated first. We're here again, and it's Tea Time with Coach. I'm sorry, I just had a blank. I just got off of a phone call. Sorry about that. But welcome, welcome. We're live here. Listen, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I come here live to just chit chat with you about some things. If you're new to me, I am a divorce coach. I have been divorced twice, and this is my channel. Have lots of resources available to you regarding all topics on divorce. At the taping of this video, I've been divorced for 12 years. And so I just created Tea Time with Coach just as an opportunity to come and chit chat with you about whatever is going on, whatever I feel like talking about. There's no rhyme or reason to these Tea Times with Coach. So we can loosen up a little bit here and just coming in. So listen, uh it's the last month of September, right? The last month of September. Can you believe it? I just feel like this year has literally flown by. These past 3 months have flown by, and we are approaching a brand new year. In 93 days, it's going to be 2023. And I'm excited about it, but it's also, just amazing, really, at how it feels like. All right, we know all the time is the same, but it feels like the year has literally flown by. And so, for me, this time of year, I just love to plan. I love to assess, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that on today. But as I always say, what's good with you? What's good? What's good? What's good? So let me share with you. I always write down my notes, during the week as things pop up. So I like to look down at them so I don't forget. I also have a plus 50. And so sometimes, don't tell anybody, sometimes we forget. We forget things, right? So listen, yeah, this week. Okay, so yeah, so this week has been extremely busy for me. I've had some extra activity, if you will, and but it's been a good week. I will definitely say it's been a good week. It's been a revelatory week in terms of the end of the month and the season. And I've learned a lot of lessons this quarter, right? So for me, I'm always planning and assessing. Great morning, Angela. Planning and assessing at this time of the year. I love a challenge, and I've been assessing these past 3 months, this past month, and what lessons and things that I've learned. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this week, as far as this week, what's been good is that I had an opportunity to have lunch with a friend and meet in person this week. And so this woman and I have been in several coaching program for leaders, and we sort of ran into each other a couple weeks ago when I was hanging out with Mr. P. And so we decided to have lunch, and we actually had lunch. And so it was a beautiful experience, beautiful new friendship that we've created, offline, if you will. And so that has been really exciting. It's always nice to have new people sort of coming into your lives and things of that nature and new opportunities, right? And so when we're faced with these new, whether it's a friendship, new opportunities, it brings new challenges to our life. And when we have new challenges, they're not necessarily comfortable for us, right? Anytime there's something new, it stretches us out of our comfort zone. And so what's normal to us is we want to kind of shrink back, if you will, and go and do the regular things that we've been accustomed to doing, sharing, meeting, talking, whatever area of life it has to do with, because those things are easy. We can do those things on autopilot. But the only way we are able to grow and change is to stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone. And so I'm in a space, in a season where I'm really being challenged to stretch, and I'm also being challenged to change, right? And so let me just see which direction that I want to go in, right? Okay, so I can go ahead and go forward with that. So during this last quarter, I stretched myself. I'll say it was a stretch, right? I have coaches. I told you guys that before. But during this quarter, I went back to therapy. And I hadn't been into therapy. And I've had coaches, business coaches, mindset coaches, all those things over the past 7 years, but I hadn't actually gone back into therapy. And so I stretched myself to go back into therapy because, and I'm going to get to my points after, because I felt some old behavior patterns setting in. And what you're going to find in life, whether it has to do with divorce, relationships, children, parenting, challenges, setbacks, whatever it is, that you have to understand when you have sort of negative patterns in your life, or things that you maybe have been used to doing or saying or responding to for majority of your life, that in challenging times, in stressful times, your subconscious mind wants to move back into those old familiar behaviors and patterns or conversations or whatever they may be for you. And so for me, it was thoughts. I hadn't necessarily acted on anything, but I recognized some of my thinking patterns were shifting and changing, and I was assessing myself, and I wanted to check in with a therapist, if you will, to sort of assess where those, what those thoughts were all about and kind of unpack them, if you will, right? So that has been great for me over these past 3 months. It has given me a new revelation about where I am, what season, because we're always changing, we're always growing. And in these past 3 months, I've had a lot of changes in my business. I've had a lot of changes in my home life. I took my youngest daughter to college. Earlier in the year, I had a death. I lost my brother back in April. So this is life. This is real life. And so whether you're going through a divorce, separation, whether you're farther down, post divorce, it's life. Right. And so I'm just talking about this because this is a real life experience for me. And I know that it can be a real life experience for you. There will be periods and seasons where you're challenged, number one. And, you have to self-assess, right? You definitely have to self-assess. And so as we're winding up this month, heading into a new quarter, that is what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about looking in the mirror. Looking in the mirror, right? And looking beyond this physical, right? But looking into your own eyes and asking yourself some questions. Because, see, one of the things that happens in life in general is that we're always looking for other people to validate us. We're always sort of analyzing people's responses, their behaviors. And a lot of times it really has nothing to do with the other individuals. It has everything to do with us, right? And that's why self-assessment and self-honesty and self-awareness is so important. Look in the mirror on today. What do you see? What challenges are you experiencing? What wins are you experiencing? Right? And so what you need to say is, I am responsible for everything that happens in my life. I'm responsible. I can't control other people, but I can definitely control my responses. Right? And so when we talk about self-assessment, we have to be honest with ourselves. Right? If there's an area of our life that we have not um, accomplished or achieved a level of success that we desire to, then we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves why. Does it have to do with our thoughts? Does it have to do with our discipline level? Right? Are we planning our lives? If it's something tangible that we need to achieve, if it's a thought process or an emotion, right? What are we feeding our minds? Right? What type of conversations are we having? Right? Because a lot of times we don't, I talk about it so much, but it's so, so powerful. Our environment has so much to do with our lives. Right? And I have family members and friends and people that question some of my behaviors. And I'll give you one example. If you follow me, you've heard me say this before. I don't do a lot of television. When I say television, I mean regular routine TV. I don't have the TV playing in the background. I don't watch the news at all. I really don't. The only time I'll turn on the TV to the news is the weather. If we're having a storm or something that of that nature that I need to know immediately what's happening, right? Tornado watches and things of that nature. I turn on the TV. Now, I do watch, I binge watch on the back end certain shows and episodes when I have time, but I'm not a TV watcher. I really don't feed into negativity. I try not to feed into negativity. And the news is negative. A lot of times, the things on television, if you get wrapped into shows, then they can be time thieves, right? So when I binge watch programs, I binge watch them on my own time when I allot those times of, downtime and things of that nature, right? And people will question you, right? People have questioned me. Why don't you watch TV? Here's my point. Because it's up to me to protect this. And I'm the only one who knows how I respond to that type of negativity, to that type of information, if you will. Right. So you have to be honest with yourself in terms of your environment, your thought processes, your behaviors, your disciplines or lack of disciplines, your time management, all of those things. You have to be honest with yourself. We have to look in the mirror, right? A lot of times we think, and let me tell you something, I've experienced this myself personally, and I've also worked with women, after divorce as a coach about trusting other individuals, right? And the reality is we don't trust other individuals because we don't trust ourselves. And let me tell you why. A lot of times we'll blame it on the past relationship, whether this is marriage, a romantic relationship, maybe a parental disappointment or family member disappointment in the past, right? A lot of times we'll use that as a scapegoat. Well, my parents did this to me. My ex-husband or ex-wife did this to me, or that former relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend did this to me. That old job did this to me. But trusting or not trusting other people really has everything to do with trusting yourself. Because guess what? When you know who you are, when you trust yourself, you know that you're able to get through any situation or circumstance that comes before you. It doesn't mean that it won't be difficult. It doesn't mean that it won't be challenging, but you trust yourself to make the right decisions. You trust your intuition. You trust yourself to choose the right people, the right friends, the right jobs. And when you trust yourself, you're more willing to trust other people. See, blaming is easier, right? It's an easier process to do because we put that off on somebody else. But when we have to trust ourselves, mean that we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to own up to our own self commitments that we do or don't follow through with. And oftentimes we project our own lack of self honesty, lack of holding ourselves accountable, lack of doing what we're supposed to do off onto other people. I want you to think about that for a little bit. I'm talking today about looking in the mirror as we're ending this month, as we're heading into the last quarter of the year, and eventually in 93 days, we're going to be facing a new year. It's a time that we always want to do new things, new goals. We have new aspirations, but we can't reach those if we're not looking at the now. We can't reach a new relationship if we don't recognize what our last relationship, and I'm talking about romantic relationships, entailed. If we don't look at our behavior in that last relationship, if we don't look at our responses in that last relationship, right, wrong, or indifferent responses, right, and understand why we responded, or why we behaved, why we said, why we did the things that we did, then how can we move forward into a healthy, happy relationship? Now, we're going to have bumps, we're going to have mistakes, we're going to, error, of course, because it's always about learning, right? But we have a better chance to be successful in those areas when we look in the mirror and we're honest with ourselves, right? When we're really honest with ourselves. So think about that for a minute before I move forward. Let's talk about, y'all know this beautiful teacup that I introduced to y'all last week. Isn't it great? I just am loving it. Today I'm drinking peppermint tea by Bigelow. Bigelow is a basic brand you can find on any shelf in your local grocery store. And that's what I'm sipping on today. It's very relaxing, peppermint. Very, very relaxing. So meanwhile, as you're pondering what I said, I have a question for you. Have you read my first book, Suddenly Single? I wrote this book back in 2016, my very first book. I learned a lot in writing this book. But this book, let me just break some of the chapters down for you. So if you have, you can definitely go over to Amazon.com. If you look at the link in my bio here on YouTube, there should be a link where you can go and purchase the book. You can download it via as an ebook, or you can actually purchase a hard copy. But when we talk about Suddenly Single, this book talks about getting clarity. It talks about getting your house in order. It talks about getting support, co-parenting skills, redefining yourself and getting yourself back, finding your purpose, and then ultimately giving glory to God, because I'm a believer, right? And I think this is relative to this season as I'm talking about looking in the mirror. Many women find themselves suddenly single, and what happens is you have to, good morning, Ty, you have to look in the mirror. It's all about you. It's all about what you choose. It's all about your behaviors. It's all about your thought process, right? It's all about where you want to go next. And with God, nothing is impossible. But I think that the misnomer as a believer, as a Christian woman, as a woman of faith, that we forget or we omit that yes, God is faithful. Yes, God has a plan for our life. But there are some things that we need to do. And a lot of times it require us making decisions, making healthy choices, right? And then taking proper action. We have to do something. And a lot of times it's very easy. We're feeling overwhelmed. When we have a lot of goals and aspirations, and when we don't have a plan or methodology to do it, we can easily shrink back and not do anything. Right? That's right. Regardless of what's happening in our life, God is always here with us. Right? But we still have to look in that mirror and ask ourselves those questions. We still have to be aware. Self-awareness is a major piece of growth and change. Growth and change. There cannot be any change without growth. Excuse me, any growth without change. Right? And growth is relative to what you need in your life. I always talk about 5 life zones, right? Spiritual, physical, emotional, excuse me, emotional, social, financial. I feel like I'm missing something, right? How are you spiritually? Where do you need to change? Do you need to change? Do you want a closer relationship with God? Well, what will it take for you to do that? Will it take more study? Will it take more prayer, more intense prayer? Will it take more fasting? Right? There's levels to everything, right? Your physical body. What's next for you in your physical body? What do you need to do? What do you need to add? What do you need to take away? What are some goals that you have for yourself in this space? Let's look in the mirror. This is a great time of self-assessment, right? Emotional. And the thing about emotional is that no one really knows what's going on in here. When I decided to go back to therapy, no one knew what was going on in here, but I knew what was going on in here, right? So I made a decision this quarter to check in, and get some unbiased feedback. And I'm so glad I did, because it's been 12, I don't know, it might have been less than 12, maybe 10 years before I've checked in with a therapist. Like I said earlier, tons of coaching, but they have 2 different roles. right? And I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so ready for this next season of my life, right? I'm so ready for this next season of my life. And I hope that you are too. I hope that you're planning some, you know, good things for yourself. Only you know what that is. Only you know what you need, right? One of my favorite books, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've never read that book, I even think it's probably on audio on YouTube. You probably don't even have to purchase it. Absolutely. Ty says self-assessment is one of those things she's doing right now, and there's nothing wrong with taking a step back. You are absolutely right. Because a lot of times we have to take a couple of steps back in order to catapult forward. And as women, we have to be really, really careful. I'm glad that you said that, Ty, because as women, we have to be really, really careful because it's very easy for us to do and go and go and go and get on the hamster wheel, and for everyone around us, as even as a businesswoman, as a coach and a parent and a daughter, and all these things, right? Sometimes we just have to stop. It's okay. Pause. Hit the pause button. Because I'm going to tell you, when you reset and re-hit the pause button, everything's going to be the same when you come back. Trust me on that, right? Trust me on that. Whatever challenge was there, it's going to be there. Whatever good thing is there, happy people, places, things, they're going to be right there waiting for you, right? But oftentimes we have to take a pause and we have to assess where we are and also what